Hello, I'm David Buys, your MSU Extension State Health Specialist, back with you in our series of conversations about COVID-19. Today, I'm joined by Extension Agent Jennifer O'Banner. Jennifer works in Hancock County and works primarily in family and consumer sciences. She's one of our leading trainers for our Healthy Homes initiative, and so I wanted to get her on to talk to us today about some of the issues that are emerging during COVID-19 related to healthy homes. Thanks for joining us, Jennifer.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So, Jennifer, we've been seeing reports from the CDC and in the popular press as well that suggest calls to poison control centers are on the rise. Tell our viewers what that's about and what we're seeing out there.
Oh, David, I'm so glad you brought that up. We have definitely seen an increase in those phone calls. They have been compared, the 2020 phone calls from January through March have actually been compared to 2018 and 2019 numbers. And you're looking at a 20% and 16% increase in numbers for cleaner poisoning as well as disinfectant poisonings. And if we have time, I could touch on two notable cases that have been identified, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the first case, goodness gracious, there was a lady who saw on the news that you should clean your grocery items before you use them. And I myself soak my vegetables and my fruit in vinegar and water. Well, she took an extra step and added bleach to hot water and vinegar. And while she was cleaning the rest of her grocery items, she started to cough, she started to wheeze and smell something of a chlorine-like odor. And shortly thereafter, she was being transported to the hospital and kind of find out that she had experienced poisoning. So that's just one instance. And another, there was a preschool age child who was found unconscious, and she had bumped her head after consuming some of a 64-ounce bottle of disinfectant solution. So, and it was a hand sanitizer. So can you imagine walking in on your child, finding them completely unconscious, and she bumped her head before, after she fainted, she bumped her head. So you not only have what's happening due to, ingesting hand sanitizer, but also from bumping her head. And these numbers are, according to, of course, the poison control data system, they believe these numbers are underreported. So, and we're talking about a 20 and 16% increase, and that's underreported. So,
golly, those are scary stories. And I guess the public health training in me is bubbling up, and I'm thinking more about just the connection between exposure and then likelihood of some negative outcome related to that exposure. The fact that the more time we spend on negative things or things that are potentially hazardous, the more likely we are to be affected by that. Do you think is that some of what's driving this in terms of us being at home and being around these items that are problematic?
Oh, most definitely. We have to take into account that children are not in school right now, that they're at home, and the parents are either working in the field or they're working from home. And it doesn't mean that they're neglecting their children. It's just that they're not prepared and they're not taking those precautions that only would take with their children being at home. And it's having its effect. Sadly, that it is.
Well, it's definitely, I can speak from firsthand experience. It's difficult to have children at home while you're trying to work. It's a new set of opportunities, let's call it. Let's talk about our Extension Healthy Homes initiative. I referenced in the introduction that you're one of our leading trainers for healthy homes. Tell our viewers a little bit about some of the good stuff we cover in this program and some of our educational sessions.
Yes, Healthy Homes is actually one of my favorite programs to deliver. It's not limited to just your regular clientele in the community. I get the opportunity to work with health child care facilities, and I love it because you're exposing the hidden dangers that exist within the home. And we discuss everything from asthma to hazardous products to just indoor air quality and even lead
Mhm.
poisoning. And those are things, that people really, we overlook, and we get so comfortable in our homes that we neglect those hazardous things that do impact our health. Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad that you are enthusiastic about healthy homes, and I want to zoom in now and talk a little bit about unintentional poisoning piece that has hazardous household products. What might be driving that? And back to the poisoning piece for children, what and for the adults as well, what could be driving that?
There are a lot of factors, a lot of
Mhm.
them, but what really comes to mind is accessibility. Just take into account the child who drank the hand sanitizer. I mean, it was obviously available for her to have consumed well, hopefully not the entire 64-ounce bottle, but enough that it knocked her unconscious. So it's where we're leaving things, we're not labeling items, and that if you have children, especially young kids, and that's something that is very notable that the Poison Control Centers did disclose that most of the cases that we've seen January through March are with kids that are ages 5 and under. So kids can't read the bottle. They're just picking up
Right.
something that looks, ooh, this looks like Kool-Aid. Let me taste
Yeah.
it. Or that grandparent who's picking up something and can't really read the label. It
Hmm.
just becomes dangerous just where we're leaving items.
Ellen's operating our behind the scenes production of the show. Ellen, would you please bring up the graphic that we've got to help us illustrate some of these lookalikes? That's yeah, so it's up there now for our viewers to see, and it's exactly what you're talking about, Jennifer, that folks don't necessarily always see the connection. I know you may have, I think you've got a personal story to share with us about some of these connections, and I wanted to tell one as well. I was working in a research setting back several years ago, and doing work with older adults, and one of my colleagues went in to do an interview in the house with a lady and an older adult with low vision. And the lady, they got through the research questionnaires, and the lady commented that, everything seemed to be fine, except that strangely, they had changed the flavoring in toothpaste. And my colleague got to looking, and the lady had been using preparation H for toothpaste. So the importance of labeling and keeping things stored in their right places is not just unique to children. And I'm eager to hear what your story is as well, Jennifer. This is a relevant message across the life course, that always have a place for everything and put everything in its place. And so tell us a little bit more about what you teach and kind of your experience with this. I love this part of our Healthy Homes curriculum because it's such an easy area for us to intervene on.
It is, because so many of us have stories. And
Mm-hmm.
if it doesn't relate, precisely to us, it's someone in our family. In my case, my grandmother was blind, and my cousin, who was her great grandson, he would come and spend time with her. Well, one day he saw her gummies, and he's thinking, ooh, gummy bears. Sadly, they were laxatives. So
Mm.
let's just say he spent a long time in the restroom. I'm saying hours before his mother came back and saw that he was severely dehydrated because he was consuming laxatives. And they look like gummies. Children do
Yeah.
not know the difference. So, and even the ones that are chocolate, they may think it's chocolate candy, but in actuality, it's a laxative.
You're
Mm.
exactly right. And this graphic over here on the screen with us helps make that point, that you see things like Windex and blue Kool-Aid look almost identical. And again, children don't know the difference in those things. Or tea in a bottle and dish soap, very similar. We see Red Hots and Sudafed look a lot alike, and so on and so forth. So such an important and yet simple thing for us to address. I think a lot about the importance, and we talk in our Healthy Homes curriculum about the importance of keeping the cleaning chemicals that we use stored up and away from children. as opposed, it's so common. And look, I've even got things that I on occasion have to remind myself, and my wife and I talk about, oh, we got to get that out from under the kitchen counter, the Windex or the countertop cleaner or whatever it is. And it's just easy to slip back into that old habit. But I think these are some of the things that are driving that increase in rates that we talked about at the outset.
Most definitely. And we were discussing earlier about those negative things, being exposed to so much negative. That could even be the media. Like the lady who put the bleach in with the vinegar water, she thought that she was being helpful to herself because she saw it on the news. But in actuality, it was the complete opposite. So we think we're doing good, but we're actually doing more harm than good.
Right. And, I can't help, but since you brought the media piece up, and this is just, it's a good opportunity to remind our viewers the importance of, I talked about on Friday in my brief Facebook Live conversations about COVID-19, the importance of looking at sources that are authoritative, bias-free, and current. There's so many sources for information these days. And, we need to just be sure that what we're taking in fits those, that we check all three of those boxes, because the currency, especially, data's changing every day, and the insights and the recommendations we get change every day too. So be sure that you're looking at authoritative sources, ones that are bias-free and ones that are current. Are there any other prevention strategies you want to mention, Jennifer, as we think about this unintentional poisoning prevention?
Actually, there is. When you mentioned the Windex, it made me think of being younger myself and thinking how pretty blue that was. And I see now how people have excess product and they'll put it in another bottle. So let's just say I have this beautiful blue Windex and I put it in a Powerade bottle or a Gatorade bottle, and I just leave it on the countertop. What's going to prevent someone, especially a child or even a teenager, from coming in saying, ooh, Powerade, and drinking it? They don't know. I'm sure the label wasn't changed on it. And that's just something, if you're going to use excess cleaning product of any sort, make sure you're changing the label that's on that bottle so that hopefully the person who sees it won't be tempted to drink it or consume it.
That's great insight. Jennifer, it's been great having you on today. Any last minute words of wisdom, or maybe 2 or 3 things you'd leave us with as our main takeaways?
Mainly follow the directions that's on the containers. Wash your hands and continue to practice social distancing. I want to say one more thing. My brother works in food service. He has a restaurant, and someone came through the other day because they're doing the curbside and said, aren't you glad this is over with?
Oh.
The disillusionment. And that's why it's so important to go to those credible sources. Make sure we're not taking in information from sources that are not accredited. So yeah, make sure you're getting great sources like Mississippi State Extension.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And as we bring this segment to a close, it's important to acknowledge the 200th birthday, what would be the 200th birthday of Florence Nightingale, who's the founder of modern day nursing. Florence Nightingale said, the connection between health and the dwelling of the population is one of the most important that exists. So, nearly 200 years ago, 150 years ago, she was acknowledging this important connection between the environments that we live in and the health of and well-being of us as a population. Clearly, these ideas we've been talking about today aren't new. She brought this forward quite a long time ago, and we're grateful for her influence on our healthcare system, as well as the public health interventions that we engage in today, including healthy homes. Viewers, thank you all for being with us today, either live or for viewing this in a recording later. Leave us a note in the comments below about what you found helpful, what you found interesting, and then as always, we welcome your insight and input about what topics we should cover next. I like to leave by encouraging you always stay vigilant and stay healthy.